is Nouman, and I'm one of the program coordinators at the School of Cities. We're excited to have you and to share about our program, the opportunities it offers, and how it can help you achieve your goals. Before I toss it over to our lovely speakers, I'm just going to do a few housekeeping items, which I'm sure everyone will enjoy. So just so you know, right off the bat, today's session will be recorded. Please make sure to make sure that your microphones are muted during the presentation to avoid any sort of background noise. During the duration of the hour, if any questions come up, feel free to use the chat box to drop your questions there. We will have a dedicated Q&A session, hopefully 10 to 15 minutes towards the end of the webinar, where you'll be able to ask your questions verbally by using the raised hand feature. We will try to get to as many questions as possible. If there's a question in chat that wasn't addressed, I will do my best to inform the speakers of those questions, of that question. And lastly, we encourage active participation. Please engage respectfully and be mindful of others in the session. The University of Toronto values freedom of speech, and individuals demonstrating inappropriate language or behavior will be removed from the session. And I will be able to sort of drop a link in the chat of the U of T's policies for disruption of meetings. And without further ado, after that very long list, Karen, Nouman, Lisa, please take it away.
Thanks so much, Magda, and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on a very, very cold afternoon in Toronto. I'm Karen Chapple. I'm director of the School of Cities and professor of planning at the University of Toronto. And I want to start by saying that we acknowledge that the land on the University of Toronto operates for thousands of years was the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Seneca. And today, this place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. In fact, we at the U of T feel very strongly that the land is at the center of so many of the challenges we face today in terms of accelerating housing solutions. We have a legacy of colonialism that we're dealing with. We have a system of private property rights that has strengths, but means that we haven't always preserved the public realm in the way that we should. And our bureaucratic processes have often gotten in the way of housing solutions. So we're running Leading Urban Change, this time with a deliberate focus on housing. There's a lot of reasons. There's a housing crisis. The housing market has been stuck for over a year, partly because of interest rates. But we also, as a team, as a teaching team, we see a lot of positive examples out there. At the School of Cities, we've been working with innovators, for instance, from the CMHC Housing Supply Challenge, and we see how they're moving projects forward. In our data storytelling program, we're seeing people walk away with the tools they need to bring people on board and turn the ship around. We think we're onto something at the School of Cities, and I think my facilitators here feel the same way. I'm going to introduce them in a second, but I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about what the Leading Urban Change program is. It's a professional development program that helps you figure out a way forward in your own work. It's basically 2 days in person. It'll be on May 12th and 13th. And we work together on building a framework for thinking about joint problem solving and building support. And then this is followed by 3 sessions by housing experts in finance, technology, and partnerships. And then we end with your presentation. So who are you? You are a housing professional in any sector, private, not-for-profit, public, who has years of experience trying to address housing problems. And you feel stuck. You know what should be done. You actually have the answers yourself, but you're struggling to get there. And you need some space to reflect and strategize, and some peers and experts to bounce your ideas off of. So with that, let me introduce my co-facilitators. Nouman Ashraf, Associate Professor at Rotman School of Management, where he teaches leadership to business students. He's the lead on pedagogical innovation at the School of Cities and heads our leading social justice collective training program. Lisa Helps is the former mayor of Victoria, British Columbia, for executive lead of BC Builds and former advisor to the BC Premier on housing solutions. So welcome both. And as we turn it over to them, I just want to ask those participating in this session to take a moment and share in the chat what you believe is the biggest challenge in accelerating housing solutions. What do you think is the biggest challenge in accelerating housing solutions? And with that, let me turn it over to Nouman. Why is the Lead Urban Change program important, and what does it mean to you?
I mean, it is not lost on me that we're having this conversation on MLK Day. It's not lost on me that we're having this conversation on the inauguration day in the United States, where the majority of my family lives. And I think the questions of justice, the questions of equity, questions of twinning our personal commitments to societal expectations is something that I think is top of mind for a lot of people. So Karen, you said something earlier that I really resonate with, which is to say that we recognize at the University of Toronto that as an institution that is committed to both knowledge creation and knowledge mobilization, we need to operate within the realms of our biggest challenges of the moment. And I would argue, with my School of Cities hat on no less, that housing is one such challenge, but also an opportunity for us to build a community of practice. This speaks to me as someone who just wrapped up at the Rotman School a 2-week intensive on leading social innovation. The kickoff speaker, by the way, of which was a developer. So Mitch Cohen from Daniels Corporation. I invited him because I had the privilege of interviewing him for his book, which speaks about the work that was done in Regent Park, the revitalization that happened, which was bringing together disparate parties with a common interest and a vision. And one of the things I want to share with you that really landed, I think, for our learners, and I hope will as well for this cohort, is that when we think about living systems as metaphor for the needs of communities, needs of businesses, needs of planners, needs of policy people and academics like ourselves, we build something meaningful. But if our metaphors are faulty, if we think of them as being inert and unmovable, then I think it becomes a bit of a challenge. The second thing I want to highlight, what you said, which I thought was a really great introduction, thank you, Karen, was what is this program about? This is a 3D model of education program, right? So expect the leaders, and all of those are leaders that are applying to the program and being part of it, bring their insights and experiences rooted in active translation to their context. So we appreciate the context. We want to bring in the learner to learner, the learner to faculty, and faculty to learner model in here. And we want people to come in with some problems that they want to get unstuck with that pertain to housing. So that's my pitch, why I think this is both timely and important for us all. And that's why I'm so excited. And I also get to hang out and work with Lisa and yourself. So that's always a bonus. Lisa.
Thanks so much. And Lisa, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your own work, accelerating housing solutions and the skills and tools you've learned that are critical for driving change.
Sure. Yeah, I will tell you about that in just a moment. Thanks everyone for joining us. I'm here in Victoria, British Columbia on Lekwungen territory, and just want to echo Karen's point at the beginning that we acknowledge territories, not only to acknowledge them, hold up our hands to the people who have been here for thousands of years, and also recognize the potential working on any housing project, whether it's an Indigenous or non-Indigenous housing project, that housing has the potential to be a reconciliatory act. So I will tell you briefly about my work, but just in the most nuts and bolts fashion, because I want to talk more about why I think this course is important and why I wish that I had had this course available to me, particularly my years as mayor and maybe even when I was in the premier's office. So I'm working on a program, leading a program called BC Builds, and our mandate is to accelerate housing solutions to get projects in small towns and big cities and on reserve and off reserve all across British Columbia under construction in 12 to 18 months. So we've been given an acceleration mandate from the government, also funding from the government, and we need to deliver housing quickly. So that's the expertise that I bring to this course, as well as I would say probably a couple of decades of obstacle removal experience and really building the relationships and the partnerships meant to deliver quickly. So what I bring to the course is very hands-on, very practical. And for those, as Nouman said, who are struggling with a housing project or a housing policy, we are here to help. The whole thrust of the course is to gather all of us together online and in person, look at your specific policy or problem or challenge, and give you, through the experts that we have joining us, and we'll talk about those a little bit later on, through the peers who are also going to be in the course, through the three of us, and then through ongoing coaching, practical solutions. There'll be some theory wrapping around the practice, but this is really about practical solutions to accelerating housing challenges that you're finding in your own communities, in your own organizations, in your own governments. So I'll stop there, Karen. I made a list of who's coming and what they have to offer, but maybe we can talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I've learned so much from the two of you teaching this course together. And what I feel like you guys bring is a sense of where everyone's soft power is. What can you tap into that can persuade people to come on board, that can actually you know, make change happen by finding common ground where you thought there was none, where you thought change was impossible. Finding those levers for systemic change is, I think what the particular gift that you guys bring. We get a question all the time about this program, which is, okay, I'm a learner. What am I going to get out of this program? What am I going to walk away with? And I'm wondering if you guys could speak to that a little bit.
Lisa, go for it, please.
Sure, I'm happy to. First of all, I know that everyone who's working in, whether it's a municipality or a nonprofit or the private sector, has access to consultants, to other staff members, et cetera. And I'm sure they're all excellent. I know they are. And one of the things that this course offers is access to seasoned professionals with actionable expertise in housing. So, people like Derek Ballantyne, who was the chair of the CMHC board, Robert Brown, who founded Catalyst Developments and Sasha Capital, Rudy Wallace, the CEO of the Hamilton Community Foundation. So those three are coming to talk about housing finance. So you get that really high level seasoned expertise. Another key element that learners receive is coaching. So you'll be a cohort, you'll have your, the online sessions and the in-person session with the whole cohort, but then for individuals and or project teams, you have access to the three of us as coaches, not just during the program, but in the weeks and months following. And then I think the third piece, and again, everyone who takes the course will be struggling with similar but different issues, and that peer learning. And it's not just what we found in our first cohort. It wasn't just peer learning like, oh, this is interesting, we're going to just be together for these 5 or 6 weeks, but you've got those relationships and those networks that you can then rely on as you're back in your own community. So I think those are 3 things that differentiate our course from just working in your own area with the consultants and others that you would hire to help. We're not consultants by any stretch of the imagination. We're really deeply embedded in helping with systemic change and having a cross cohort learning experience so that everyone's taking everything away from everyone and sharing everything with everyone.
I just want to build on that, Lisa. If we look at what's in the chat in terms of what are some of the key questions and what I will call points of pain that are identified by the delegates that are here today. I want to make just an observation, which is to say that systemic solutions come from having meaningful dialogue with an eye to prototyping. And when we have dialogue, we sometimes speak different languages. I think one of the key value propositions of a course like this, a learning community like this, is to be able to understand what the different language systems are that are in operation across people's domains. So if you were to ask me, a leadership person, what is a major challenge, not just in housing, but across domains, it's polarization. It's us holding in contempt others who speak a different language, who see the world differently, who see different points of pain or ways of addressing those points of pain. And I think this is a way to actually almost force cooperation in a meaningful way with an eye to getting people to prototype. So what's prototyping about? Prototyping is about saying, can we boil down our big problems to small experiments? Start with a hypothesis. Can we test the hypothesis? Can we create something that we can actually test and get others feedback on? So to me, some of the people that you've named, Lisa, in terms of who will be coming in speaking, for example, about housing finance, that's us getting access to vocabulary and an understanding of systems. So the 3 S's are really important in my analysis: systems, structures, and strategies. And getting people to understand how their ideas, how their initiatives are coming up against those 3 S's, and finding a way through that is super helpful, I think, from my perspective. Secondly, I do bring a little nuance, or should we say nuance, pardon that pun, which is to actually have people own their story. I think it's important for leaders to own their story, because leadership to me is about owning their story, and growth is about owning their learning. So I encourage people to come in with a learning outcome in mind, with a growth outcome in mind, and to actually use the program to help them get to their personal professional development plan. And that's where I get my jollies from, in helping people connect the personal to the professional, with iteration as being the measure of progress. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Nouman. I mean, when you're talking about systems, structures, and strategies, I'm seeing what's in the chat, and I'm seeing, people's battles with the systems that we are up against, and the complexity of it all, with multiple orders of governance, multiple systems of finance, and that we need to access to, different funding streams to make a project pencil. And it really is about this, about getting your strategies in place. And it's a huge amount of work. And I think in some ways we haven't done our housing pedagogy right in terms of preparing people to face systems and structures that are this impermeable. And that's why we have this course, is a way that you're not just going to sit there and absorb knowledge from experts, but we're going to make you work. The 3 of us will be with you for 2 days in person in the beginning of the course. We'll get to know you. We'll be coaching all of you. We'll get to know your problems. We'll be referring you to people that we think are helpful. We'll be connecting you across your groups. And then when the experts come in, you're going to really tap into their wisdom. You're not going to let them walk away with a PowerPoint presentation, while you've been doing email the whole time. No, you're going to really get a chance to interact with them and get them to think about your own problem. So it's a very much of a tailored program to your particular needs.
Karen, I just want to add one thing with the systems, strategies, and system structures and strategies. And I've been reading the chat as well. At BC Builds, and you can Google it, or I'll put the website in the chat, and look specifically at what we call the BC Builds rocket ship, which is meant to be a project acceleration tactic. We look at and address and kind of, I don't want to say bust through, because that's a bit violent, but almost do jiu-jitsu on systems, structures, and strategies to use them to our advantage to get a specific project in a specific community built. And my experience in the program's been running for a year, is that where there's a willingness to acknowledge we have a housing shortage, which there is in every city, town, and on every reserve across the country, that brings people together in a new way. We have a housing shortage, we have a housing crisis, and people are willing to start to look differently. And so what I will, bring to the course is that, well, my 8 years as mayor, 1 year as the housing solutions advisor, but I don't want to say that's not important. That's not as important as the really practical solutions from this BC Builds project or program, where we're using the system, we're using the structure, we're using the strategy, and using it to our advantage rather than saying, oh, there's too much bureaucracy. Okay, what's the bureaucracy? How do we channel that in our direction? How do we make that work for us? So yeah, I'll stop there, but I just wanted to add that in.
I love that jujitsu metaphor. I really do. Because I think it's almost not just reframing, but re-examining key things that create a kind of a problematic point of pain. The other thing I want to say is, and we'll be using the text of my colleague and friend, Professor Tiziana Casciaro and Julie Battagliani on Power for All. And I think one of the most meaningful things for me about this program is understanding interdependencies between and across problems. And that's where I think Lisa's jiu-jitsu metaphor comes in really handy, right? Which is to turn the forces that create the problem onto their own self, and to create something that at least is both meaningful, feasible, and replicable.
I'm so glad you mentioned the textbook for the class, Nouman. We use Power for All, Tiziana Casciaro, Rotman professor. It's a masterpiece, great book, and it really teaches you how to understand organizations and how they function and how to get through them. I've already put a request in the chat for your questions. I want to let you know that we want your questions about the program, or really about what we do, or anything else on your mind about accelerating housing solutions. And feel free to unmute your mic if you like to ask the question directly. And if you're shy, and many people are, then please just type your question in the chat, and we're happy to answer it.
All questions are welcome. Everything.
Question already. Can this program be helpful in designing such different projects, such as the 3 I mentioned above? Yes, you did mention a few. So designing a pilot for financially supporting Mura applicant NFPs to develop their proposals, supporting an NFP not-for-profit navigate the process of adding housing to their community center, developing a fund to channel institutional investment in affordable rental housing. Boy, that sounds exactly like what we do. We have, in terms of adding housing to community centers, I'd like to point to the work of Maddie Simitiki, who's been in his social purpose real estate project, been working on that, and he will be with us for one of the sessions, and has thought a lot about how do you get different types of organizations to partner together effectively, and how do you get these different land uses approved in an environment which has been so against mixing uses for so very long. So you guys want to add anything to that query?
Yeah, just that Robert Brown, Rudy Wallace, and Derek Ballantyne will be really good experts in terms of the fund. So Derek runs a social purpose fund. Robert also manages Sasha Capital, and I can put their links in there to the funds. I'll put them in the chat. So absolutely, these are the exact kinds of challenges that we're looking to help sort. And we kind of anticipated what some of the challenges and projects will be, and we've lined up a group of experts, some of which we've mentioned, who you'll have access to throughout the course.
That's right.
I would say, just go ahead. I'm sorry, please. No, please.
I was just going to say, we can prep them. I mean, we can send them your issues in advance and make sure that they address it in their session with us.
Yeah, and I was going to say that I see a good coach as someone who works with their coachee, not for them. And I think bringing chiseled questions, would be really helpful for us to kind of work through and give some advice. One of the things that I have real interest in is governance. How do we connect governance to your things? Did we see Gila's hand earlier and then did it go down, or
Yes.
yeah?
It did go down, but Gila, if
Yeah.
you still have that question.
Thank you so much. It partially got answered, hence the hands down, because there were other questions, but thank you so much. I wanted to know how important it is to have a specific issue or project to resolve through the 6-week learning course, or would it work if it's sort of a high level overarching challenge in terms of some of the solutions to the affordable housing crisis?
My question would be, what are you thinking, Gila? And good to see you. Like what? And then you're thinking there's something. So what? My view around applications is the following. Through the process of application, we get to clarity around our problem definition, around problem finding, and our problem solving techniques.
Okay.
So I would encourage people to do that. Number two, I would not write ourselves out of any script in this program, right? And I think a good program assessment is to say, here's what we can offer. Here's what you think, what we think you're raising. What do you think about giving this a try? So the art of the possible without compromise. Compromise is not language that speaks to me, but saying what might be possible. What's something I can develop or learn through the program that I can apply to right size this, so I'm not let down on the one hand or overwhelmed on the other.
Okay, that answers my question precisely. It was really focused on, do we need to have a specific project in mind as we apply? And it sounds like it can be more systems level issues.
Or micro level to this self as project.
Yeah.
Right. How am I thinking about this? Are there other ways to learn
Beautiful.
from others and to be inspired by others to look at it differently?
Yeah. Love it. Thank you.
Let's take a couple of the questions in the chat and then we'll go to Melinda. Heather Kirk asked, is there a syllabus for the course? There is a syllabus indeed, and there's a workbook and assigned readings for several weeks. You're expected to work through the material with us. Sue had a question about building multiplex and citizen developers, and that's something that Lisa responded that she works on, and it's something that we work on at School Cities a lot, so we definitely can connect you very well to that type of learning. Ahmad says, you mentioned us presenting at the end. Is there a way this program showcases participants and their work towards the end or at some point through the development of participant projects? Yeah, we will showcase you at the end. We ask everybody to present. We will have a jury that will respond and give you comments. And then along the way as well, we're expecting you to stay in touch with us as your project is moving through the 5 or 6 weeks of the course. Let me go back to Melinda for the spoken question. Melinda.
Thank you. I'm working on a specific project as well as systemic issues. And my specific project has we have a project team, and I'm trying to figure out who I should sort of be potentially push or look at might be the people to attend as a project team together. So we have 2 levels of municipal governments. We have community land trust. We have a charitable developer. We have a for-profit developer. We have 2 manufacturers. We have so boards. We have a construction team. We're pretty. So what how many and who would I put together to be so I think there'd be more value rather than just one of us participating. It seems like there's a team, a value to members of a team participating. So curious your thoughts on how to go about figuring that out or applying as a team or what that looks like.
I guess maybe I'll jump in from my BC Builds experience, and Karen can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we are also offering a discount for teams. So that's good news. Yes, there's a thumbs up. I would bring 3 to 4 people. That could get potentially expensive, but 3 to 4 people. And in terms of the who, you want to get as many different angles on the project as possible. So someone, you mentioned someone on the manufacturing side, kind of a modular or like factory manufactured, that someone from that team, someone from the financing, someone from planning. So basically have your project sitting in the middle of your imagination, and then what are the most distinct lenses that you can put together on your team to come to the course. And I think that would be really helpful for you, and we be able to really work well with a group like that.
Right. Well, then
And we
I will-
introduce
Mhm.
we do introduce a framework for working in groups, which takes us out of just the whole idea of execution and efficiency into execution of learning. How do we
Mhm.
twin both high psychological safety so we can learn, but also accountability to get stuff done?
The next question is, what can you do to help me to convince my my municipal level government folks to make sure they send the right person to participate in the team and pay for all of us to join?
Which local government are you working with?
I don't know if any of them are here right now, but the District of Muskoka and the town of Huntsville in Ontario, Canada. Ontario, obviously Canada, but yeah.
I don't know, Karen,
So,
can you send an email?
Do you know, I don't know if you know Jeff Lehman. He's a strong proponent. He was the mayor of Barrie. He's a strong proponent of our project and strong advocate. And I have broached this with him a little bit, but
I do know.
great.
Is he involved at the municipal level still?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the chair of the District of Muskoka, and he's very supportive of our project. So.
Perfect. So send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat. I will write to him and say, hey, Jeff, nice to see you again. He was the chair of the Ontario Big City Mayors, and I was the chair of the BC Urban Mayors. And so we met in that context, and tell him about this program and suggest that it would be great for the district to send folks. So I'll put my email in the chat, and good way to connect with Jeff again.
That's
fantastic.
great.
And I used to live in Victoria. It was great. Glad to great to meet strong mayor of
Connections already. Connections abound.
Right. I'm seeing soft power at work here. So
thank you.
And yeah, I just want to add that our staff are happy to speak with anybody from your group, and whether together or separately. And we just found in our experience, working with groups is actually much richer. You're much more powerful moving change forward if you can get, a small team of you on the same page first.
Yeah, it's an ambitious project. It's 178 units of affordable, deeply affordable, permanently affordable, long-term, sustainable, zero carbon net zero, community-led, participatory governed housing in the town of Huntsville on municipal land that will be by land trust. So it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of complexity.
That's great. Great to hear.
Great. Thank you.
Your case. Just a couple more questions in the chat. There's one I think I didn't get to about, is this course more learning, sharing best practice, or more workshopping, actually working on stuff? I see it as the latter. I find that sharing best practice doesn't go very far. So your best practice is my worst practice. So I think you really have to kind of roll up your sleeves and work on it together. There is a question about the share of public, private, and not-for-profit sector participation. Do you want to avoid the situation where you only have not-for-profits in the course? We have in this course before, we've had a mix. We love the mix. It's just the perspectives are so rich, and this is how peer learning happens, so that you don't just have the private sector in their bubble and the not-for-profit sector in their bubble. We will attempt to the best of our ability to get that mix again in this session of leading urban change. Let's see. Any other questions in the chat that I missed?
Can I just add to
guys?
that, Karen? I so agree with you with my disdain for the term best practice also. And what I talk about is wiser practices. So extracting the wisdom from what we're seeing others do, and then really locating that in our context. And that's really us saying that we know the context better than others do, but can we think about something that is replicable? So there's a difference to me between social innovation and what it passes for imitation. I think social innovation requires for us to really understand the nuances and textures, and then to apply that wisdom in there with a mindset of how might we. To me, that's really important. That to me is the strength of the program. It's actually doing stuff together with a strong evidence-based theory approach to it, but it's about the doing.
Okay, is there anybody whose question in the chat we have not answered? Or
Nope, looks good. Unless anyone would like to pose a question to the trio.
okay, so I'm gonna begin the wrap up here. And again, if you have more questions, feel free to put them in the chat, but also feel free to talk to our staff. We have ongoing office hours to learn more from the program staff about our experience, what we're providing, and to discuss your particular situation and how the program is appropriate for you. So we're accepting applications now on a rolling basis. We want to make sure you get that application in by the beginning of March. The deadline is March 5th. You'll need to pay the tuition. That's $3,800 shortly after that deadline. There are discounts of 25% if you have a friend coming in with you, or two friends or more. We're available on an ongoing basis to take your questions. In fact, we have another webinar scheduled for February 10th at noon Eastern and 9 a.m. Pacific time. Again, there's a sign up if you want to meet with some of the staff.
Hey, Karen, you know me,
Yeah.
right? I'm a feed for feedback. Can I ask the participants to put down in one word how they're feeling about our chat? Just one word that captures how this has left you. And believe me, no bads or no words are bad words. So whatever you got. How are you feeling? I want to hear from you. Intrigued, curious, and creative. All right. Curious, thank you. Pondering, okay. Lots of thinking happening. Hopeful, nice. Engaged, that's also mine, Ray. I also feel engaged. Inspired and challenged. Curious. Hey, Dan. Thank you. Glad you found it. Ready to get started. Let's go, as the cool kids call it. Optimistic and curious to learn more. Sorry, Karen, I didn't interrupt you, but I thought it'd be great just to get a sense of where people's heads and hearts are.
I love that. I love your instinct to always engage and reach out. So
I mean, I want to learn. I don't know how this is going for others, right? And I
That's
think that we
right.
really don't bring the expert lens. We bring the collaborator lens here. So
yeah. Okay, and then the link to sign up for a chat with Gabriella is in the chat. And Gabriella, did you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabriella, and I'm the Senior Education Officer at the School of Cities. I specialize in educational development, continuing and professional learning, and instructional design. So I currently at the schools, I oversee the school's professional programming, and I'm here to support you with any questions that you may have about your workplace projects or the program or anything else you want to talk about. So I look forward to connecting with you. In the chat, a link has been placed, so please go ahead, click on the link and set up a meeting with me, and I look forward to engaging with all of you. Thank you.
can I also ask, because I incentives and motivations guy, also, what would make it easier for you to recruit others? What do you need from the school of cities? What do you need from us? I'm not kidding. I mean, I can convince over a hot chocolate and a coffee, Karen and Lisa and myself to jump on a Zoom if there's enough interest in an organization or a community practice that already exists to do a bit of a shorter version of this talk, right? Bigger discounts. I like the sound of that. I like this. I like this. Okay, for a bigger team. That, you know, why not? I mean, I'm a why not kind of guy. And I think we have to work with the constraints that all of us have, but I think we can work things out, is my sense. Would you agree, Lisa, Karen?
We're working on it.
Yes, we are working on it. We shall see.